colors of the sunset. Walking the outback in search of a dream. Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2021 Mystic Alchemist. Chapter 4. Picnic in the Hills. Claire fiddled with repositioning the shopping bags on the floor between them while he navigated the truck through the car park and onto the road again, pointing east toward the hills. "Is there some place you know?" he said. "Too many years ago," she said absently. He decided to not ask again and concentrated on driving. They were certainly climbing now. The narrow road cut into the edge of hills, and winding up with one side left hanging out into nothing but a breathtaking vista, and most of the other traffic coming toward them as people made their way home after a country lunch. All his concentration was needed to steer a safe path, but then there was no place to turn off the road to find a picnic place. "We need to be higher," Claire said when he was feeling like they should turn around, if they ever found a place to turn. Higher they went, and the road did flatten out and widen a little. "Turn up there," Claire said, pointing to the right. He made the turn, this road back to being narrow, but the surrounds were more open and he did get a glimpse of the city ahead. The further they drove, the more of the city he saw until Claire pointed to a clearing to the left. Not a park, more somewhere many people used to stop and view the view, and maybe at night it was a place for lovers to find privacy and each other. "This looks a great place for a picnic," she said. "We should walk around to find the best place." As he opened the door, he wished he had brought a coat. There was little wind, but what breeze there was had an icy core. When he opened her door he saw the shiver as the air touched her too, but she said nothing, preparing to get out and explore. Holding her close, they walked around the clearing, looking for the best view of the city. The exercise did warm him a little, and he noticed she stayed tightly by his side, often moving to use his body to shield the breeze. "There," she said, and arm out toward part of the city spread before them. "We'd see the sunset too. Do you want me to move the truck here? We could sit on the back and the sides would stop a little of the breeze. You just want to cuddle. It's one way to keep warm." She turned to peer into his eyes, him seeing the twinkle before adding, "You stay here to mark the spot while I get it." Jogging back to the truck he soon had it running again and moved to back it to where she was. Taking the shopping bags when he got out as well as the old blanket, he lifted his load over the side by the driver's door before unlatching the rear tailgate to make it easy to get into the tray. "I'll lift you up," he said. At least he had a soft rubber mat in the bed of the tray. Originally it was to stop freight moving. "That way I'll get to feel your bottom again." He didn't get to feel her bottom, one arm over her waist and the other under her knees. He lifted her up to sit her gently on the soft rubber of the tray, her legs left dangling over the side. He stayed with an arm around her waist while she settled and he thought how light she had been. He knew it wasn't his strength. "We should stay sitting like this," she said, her gaze out to the distant city. "We could have our picnic here. Then I wouldn't get to hold your side," he said. "Picnic on one side and you in the other, silly." She caught his eyes, her mischievous grin from her scolding. "So you'd have to feed me," he said. "You can be my baby for the evening." He let go her waist and walked to get the bags and blanket. She said nothing and he sensed her anguish. "My deepest regret," she said when he came back and placed the bags on her right side. "Children give meaning to a life. But they're not for everyone," he said. "Sometimes the fates hand out different lives to different people. For all the hardship they cause, I would have preferred the fates changed differently." He had the blanket opened and reached to drape it over her back. "What about you?" she said. "Being close to you will keep me warm." "Children," she said softly. "First you need a woman that loves you." "You still have time," she said as softly as him. "Life gives men more time." He wanted to say, "But women don't want to wait," but he kept silent. "You will find one you know." She had both arms up pulling the blanket over her more. "There will be a woman that will love you as much as you love her. Take it from an old woman that knows, but you won't find her here." "I have found her here," he said, locking onto her eyes. "I meant this town." This city. This area. I'm too old now, but you have years to search and somewhere your love is waiting just for you. But no excuses now. We both know truth when we see it. I see you happy in the future, but not here. Now enough of this, we have a picnic to enjoy. She busied herself opening the shopping bags and spreading the contents on the mat alongside her. Plastic tubs separate from paper parcels with utensils to the back and the bottle of drink passed over to him. A tumbler for each, she said, reaching for the sleeve of clear plastic cups. We need a drink to get into the mood. Get close against me. There's space alongside you too. He sat perched on the side of the tray, as close to her as he could. There was a little room to his right where he took 2 tumblers from their plastic and set them down. The purple drink was historic town port, a fizzy soft drink that smelled of grape. He part-filled the first tumbler and passed it over to Claire, waiting while she finished opening a tub of some salad before she took it from his hand. Our first drink together, she said while he turned to fill his own tumbler. We should have a toast. He was more thinking that with the cold and the drink he would be soon needing to pee, but he tried to think of a suitable toast instead. To a good life shared amongst friends, Claire said formally. To a good life shared amongst friends, he echoed, looking at her while touching his tumbler against hers, then both them drinking. He managed to stifle a burp, but Claire didn't. It wasn't cold enough, he said. Not very ladylike, she said, a bit of a grin on her face. Reminds me when I was a kid. Drinks always needed toilets, he said. Still do when you get older. The young and the old have much in common. No toilet close. No one's looking. One side each, she said, pointing to the closest side of the truck. But you might need to get me down. He lifted her down and watched her walk around the side of the tray, then he went the other side. That's better, she said as she came back to the rear. I could drink the rest of the bottle now. He lifted her up again and she settled down with the blanket again. You always feel better after a good pee. I could go some more of that burping brew. They didn't bother with the plates, Claire taking charge of the eats, picking small treats on a fork that she held up, then either eating one herself or holding it further for him to pluck it from the fork. It's so wicked doing it like this, she said when she was offering him a small cheese-stuffed pepper. All this fuss about germs and stuff. I always thought it made you stronger. Made your body fight disease better. If something is going to kill you, it will happen despite all your best attempts. And maybe from the blue, with no warning, he said. But it can also make you stronger and give you a new appreciation of what is important. Make you take risks you thought were too far before. These stuffed peppers are really good. Those olives were good too, he said. Want some more drink? You just want to feel my bum as you get me down to pee again. Can't blame a bloke for trying. They both laughed. Laughing and drinking don't go well for an old woman, she said when they'd settled. Maybe when we've finished eating. I'll try not to laugh too much till then. And I'll try to only talk serious things, he said. I've got something very serious I want to make you promise then, Claire said, her fork down and all her attention on him. It's a serious promise I want us to make, and I know you are a good and honorable man. He looked directly at her eyes, seeing as though he was peering into her soul. When I'm gone, I want you to search for your love. Not pretend, but really search, and not around here. Now promise me that for real. It felt impossible to not promise, so he said, I promise. Good. Now let's finish the food and you can feel my bottom again, now there's more in it. They talked small talk about the food as they ate. They drank more soft drink and they did laugh a little. Then Claire packed the leftovers carefully back in one of the carry bags and placed them against the side of the truck. Time to feel my bottom again, she said, and he got her down and they split to each side of the track again. When they came back together, he lifted her up again, then stood waiting for whatever she wanted. Still some time till sunset. Her voice was soft and silken. Would you make love to me here and we can watch the sunset in each other's arms? Part of him was surprised, but another part had been waiting. You know I will. It's not really dark enough to suit my body. She tried to grin. It's you that I love, he said. You won't be too cold. You'll keep me warm, she said. And we can wrap ourselves in that blanket. Awkwardly he tried to arrange the tray of the truck into a love nest for two. I've never done this either, she said. I just imagined what it would be like. He copied her when she began undressing, the cold more evident, even though the breeze had stilled. They both lay down together, each taking one side of the blanket to cover them, then he lifted an arm over her side to hold her close to him and he kissed her lips for the first time and he knew he was in love. Nothing else mattered in the whole world, and they made love as though they had the rest of a life of bliss ahead of them and the fact that it was in the tray of a truck in the cool of the evening didn't matter one bit.